Dave Reichert is running for governor of Washington State. He has no chance of winning. That's how politics in this state work. Seattle carries the state, and Seattle is Democrat. The rest of the state, the right-wing part of the state, doesn't have the population to compete. Welcome to Doomed Planet, episode 109. Haven't given a title to this one yet. Douchebag Dave, dipshit Dave Reichert. Former sheriff and the guy that took credit for capturing the Green River Killer when actually no such thing happened. I think James Taylor, not the singer, some other guy, local guy on Twitter summed it up. Reichert posted something, "Sheriffs across the state are uniting behind the one individual who can help make Washington safe." And James Taylor says, "I would simply not call the guy who let 70-plus young women and teenage girls get murdered by not catching the Green River Killer while he was the lead detective on the case, the one individual who can help make Washington safe." Yeah, he's a big-ass, big-time sheriff in these parts, not catching the Green River Killer. He focused on this hapless taxi driver and always thought he was the killer and made that guy's life hell, and ignored Gary Ridgway, who's really operating in plain sight. And one of the many tragic aspects to that story is that the Green River Killer preyed on homeless women, prostitutes, people that aren't, easily, like, low priority for law enforcement, low priority for society. Here we have back on October 12th, 2010, a story by Goldie in The Stranger. Goldie has since moved on to work for libertarian billionaire Nick Hanauer, an early Amazon investor and whatnot. But, Goldie probably has kids and he needs to make a living, and journalism jobs are not only hard to come by, they almost don't exist. Nick Hanauer, he likes to have it both ways. He's one of these guys that's like, I sure would pay higher taxes if only they changed the law. So I'm going to do a podcast here with Goldie where we talk about that. How do we change that law? In the meantime, yeah, I'm a billionaire. Anyway, this story, Mythbusters. Dave Reichert did not catch the Green River Killer. I honestly don't believe that anyone thinks that he actually did, but now that Reichert is running for governor, the story is back in the headlines. Goldie is quoting from Michael Hood, who ran a series in 2006 on the Reichert's oft-repeated tale, which is, quote, total bullshit. He became the public face of the arrest of the Green River Killer by elbowing his way in front of the cameras on November 30th, 2001, when the sensational caller was announced. Fact is, says Michael Hood, technology caught the killer. The saliva sample that could have busted Ridgway as early as 1996, when DNA technology became available, was not tested until 2001. He bungled the case from the start. This guy, Frank Atchley, supervised Reichert in the 80s, told the Seattle PI that he was actually more of an impediment to the investigation. He was probably the worst detective I've ever worked with. He focused on this cab driver, Melvin Foster, brought him in, interrogated him. Hood says he was so convinced of Foster's guilt, the task force focus disastrously excluded everyone else. Many hints about Gary Ridgway, a competent law enforcement officer, if there is such a thing, would have caught this guy much earlier and saved a bunch of families a bunch of pain and stopped a bunch of murders. Okay, so Hood's story, the Dave Reichert story, a noun, a verb, and the Green River Killer. So Thomas Gillen described Reichert's manipulation of the Green River Killer case as a way to climb up into party politics. And sure enough, he served as a House of Representatives representing districts on the east side of Seattle where things are more right-wing for many years. Reichert's record as sheriff was exposed in devastating reporting by Seattle PI's Lewis Cam, who found plenty of former colleagues who revealed him to be an ambitious self-promoter, an inexperienced manager prone to poor decisions, even a close-minded detective, more obstacle than asset. And again, we're investigating one of the most prolific serial killers of all time. God, I would still hate Dave Reichert even if he wasn't a cop, but that just makes it worse. Why is Reichert against abortion? I have a great respect for life, he said. I've seen a lot of death in my career. Worked Green River, seen lots of dead bodies. And of course, Sheriff Dave Reichert wrote a book called Chasing the Devil, my 20-year quest to capture the Green River Killer. And, I bet he made $1 million with this book. Ghost written by someone who is literate, of course. The subtitle of the book, My 20-Year Quest, does that not say it all? It's a triumph if you take 20 years to catch a guy who's really in plain sight with all the resources that you have. What an ass clown this guy is. We come to July 2023. A former sheriff and congressman known for his work that led to the capture of the Green River Killer has entered the race to become Washington's next governor. Dave Reichert, 72, filed campaign paperwork. He is a great-grandfather, I believe. If you look at him, he's very vain. He's described as having perfect hair. And he's one of these guys that pumps iron and builds up his upper body and then wears a shirt that's a size too small. So you can see all his rippling 72-year-old muscles. And of course, he's all for capital punishment. Washington State last had an execution in 2010. September of 2010, Cal Coburn Brown. In April of last year, Governor Jay Inslee, who Reichert is trying to replace, signed a bill that formally abolished capital punishment in Washington State and removed provisions for capital punishment from state law. And Gary Ridgway is one argument against capital punishment. The guy's suffering. I'm sure his brain is jello and he's mentally ill more than ever, but he's suffering in jail because there is no more capital punishment. Of course, he cut a deal, a tell-all deal to avoid the death penalty. Dave Reichert's website on the issues. Washington has become a haven for crime, drugs, homelessness, human trafficking, and other serious problems. As a detective and then as sheriff, I was fortunate to lead an outstanding investigative team that worked tirelessly to capture and apprehend the Green River Killer, the second most notorious serial killer in U.S. history. They worked tirelessly for 20 years. You can literally give birth to and raise a child in 20 years and send them through college. Cost of living is an issue for Dave Reichert. Health insurance and property taxes, two very different things, are through the roof. And he wants policies that will lower your taxes. Now, at least in Seattle and in much of Washington, we have the most regressive tax system in the country, including no state income tax. That's why our buddy Jeff Bezos moved to Florida recently. Dave, Reichert is telling us the spike in crime, vandalism, and homelessness have made it difficult and in some cases nearly impossible for businesses to survive, much less succeed. It doesn't have to be this way. For generations, it wasn't this way. The bottom line is crystal clear. Either elected officials are okay allowing this to happen or have chosen to look the other way. I never will. All right, so our next governor, unless something very weird happens, Bob Ferguson. He's the Attorney General taking on the toughest fights on behalf of all Washingtonians against powerful interests and wins. So this is true. I know one of my local heroes is this guy that's a class action lawyer, and he just picks some big banking corporation or some other evildoer and goes after them with a class action suit, and it's made him very rich, but good for him. He's actually getting rich helping people and busting the assholes. Bob Ferguson took on polluters and scam artists. He's also, why does this guy remind me of Andy Jassy? Like totally devoted to his career, and like any hobbies or something are just like something he was forced to write on his Twitter bio. Like Andy Jassy, CEO of Amazon, is a chicken wing enthusiast. That's the best he could do. Bob, of course, is an enthusiastic mountain climber and backpacker. Good for him. That's a good way to clear the brain, right? You can drive about 20 minutes or so in either direction, any direction outside of Seattle, and be in some incredible wilderness. He's an internationally rated chess master. Wow, and he won the Washington State Chess Championship twice. So unlike this dumb cop, he's a smart guy. And we here at the Doomed Planet podcast heartily endorse him for governor. Funny, the presidential primary ballot just came in, and you can either choose from someone who is committing a genocide or someone who will continue the genocide. I'm not sure how Trump could ramp up the genocide other than enable Israel to start using nukes. That's, who knows, anything can happen. But yeah, tore my ballot in half and threw it in the trash. And I was repulsed mainly because I remember, my God, I voted for this asshole Joe Biden. And I also voted for Hillary Clinton. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And now strike three. Damn. I will vote for Bob Ferguson, though. You might know Brandy Cruz and Jonathan Cho. Brandy Cruz and Jonathan Cho were local TV news reporters. Brandy has gone on to do this independent show that is bankrolled by some shady right-wing fucks. Jonathan Cho is more independent. He's a major troll. Neither of these people have much brain power. But here's Brandy describing Jonathan Cho's recent tour of a homeless camp with Crack Down on Homelessness and Abortion, Dave Reichert.
Yesterday on the show, we played a story that our friend Jonathan Cho, who's reporting for the Discovery Institute.
Wow, describing Jonathan Cho as your friend, that is a low point. That would be a low point for anyone. Discovery Institute, by the way, right-wing fascists, obviously.
Put out there, he invited gubernatorial candidates to come out with him. I mean, he covers the homeless crisis. He's in the trenches of the homeless crisis day in and day out. And he thought, hey, come see this, come see what I see. And then let's hear about their ideas for how they would deal with this, because obviously the current governor isn't dealing with it at all. Here's a little clip of his, I would call it a walk along, not really a ride along, a walk along with Dave Reichert.
They're suffering from, again, substance abuse or mental illness.
They're suffering from a bit of capitalism, too, and a housing shortage. But yeah, go on, you cretin.
And we expect them to make a decision that is in their best interest. That's not going to happen. We've enabled people to be homeless. We just give them needles, we give them condoms.
We're enabling them to be homeless by giving them needles and condoms.
We give them aluminum foil to do their drugs, and then we drive away.
Yeah, true. And it's almost funny that it's so weird hearing, like, our governor would never admit that.
That is weird, Brandy. And you know, your parents named you Brandy. So what do you think, Brandy? Should it be Bob Ferguson or Dave Reichert?
Gubernatorial candidate Dave Reichert says the protesters stomped on the rights of people trying to use I-5.
Okay, in this clip, Reichert is taking issue with some protesters protesting the genocide in Palestine because they blocked I-5, and that blocked traffic. He wants to crack down on them.
Kind of behavior will not be tolerated.
Bob Ferguson, who's the Attorney General, deferred comment, saying it's a state patrol issue.
That's our client. We serve them. We give legal advice to them. We work with them, but they're the client who handles those things. Right. We have to be mindful of our role.
Your expectation would have been that after the warnings were given, the Washington State Patrol effected arrests.
Yep.
We're their attorney, so they're the ones that make decisions on how to handle things. Our job is to give them legal advice.
We would have made arrests on the freeway and opened up the freeway for those people.
So we have Bob Ferguson being diplomatic and Dave Reichert saying we would have arrested those bastards. Okay, y'all, that's it. Can't do more than 15 minutes or so on disgusting, devious, depraved dipshit Dave Reichert. See you soon. Goodbye.
Been friends since the K, but lately these days we always be drinking them tweets, I may say. They make us laugh a lot, but when we wake up, we be in a parking lot. We don't know how we got there, so we call our friend Johnny. You hop in the car, but it sting like damn salami. Joey say, yo, Johnny, where the fuck your mommy? He start talking about some, she left when I was 6. He stopped the fucking car, and he pulls out a fucking blick. We all like, what the fuck? We tryna leave the scene, but while we slide out, we thinking, fuck, we go get seen. What the fuck? We get back to the crib, we're sweating and stressing, because our dear friend Johnny was so depressing. He tried to take our lives after one fucking whipping.
Hey, thanks to DJ Cat and LL Lucy for recording this little Easter egg at the end of the episode. Cat and Lucy recorded music bits for the Doom Planet podcast 5 years ago when we started. And they've just hopped back onto GarageBand to record that little bit for us, and it's quite charming, and they're well on their way to being wonderful young ladies who never get in any trouble.